Hello and welcome to this tutorial on masking with Topaz Labs ReMask. In this tutorial we're going to see how to remove this lady right here on the right from her very active and kind of distracting background. This is an image taken at a cultural festival in DC, and although it's a great place to grab people images, I actually find that the backgrounds tend to be really cluttered and unattractive. So I like to be able to find a person of interest that I like, that I think is interesting looking, and would make a great portrait, and then figure out how to get them out of their background. And so in this particular tutorial, we're going to learn that technique, and we're going to use Topaz Labs. So first we're going to go ahead and open our image up into Photoshop, and I use right now we're in Lightroom, and I'm opening it up directly into Photoshop from the Creative Cloud, which is the system that I use, part of my workflow. Give it a second. Okay, so here we are, we have our image, and you know there are many ways to mask in Photoshop, but I find that ReMask, particularly in these kind of instances, does such a great job for us that it's a great go-to. So first off, I always like to create a duplicate. You can either use the Command J or the Control J on a PC, Command J on a Mac, or you can drag the background down here, hover over the little create new layer, and you get a background image, a background copy, excuse me. So we're going to start with that. Next, we're going to open up our filters and choose Topaz, and we're going to look for ReMask. I happen to have ReMask 3, so we're going to select that. So here we are in the Topaz screen. And basically, there's a few things that you need to know when you sit down to start using ReMask. But the first thing you see is this green image. It has a green tint to it. And green is the save. Anything that's green is going to be saved, and everything that is not green, which you'll see in a second, will be removed as part of the masking. So the first thing you start with is this blue, the blue brush. And as you can see here, as I hover about in the green that I'm on, and it automatically selects it for you, but you're in, you get the blue brush. And the blue brush is, you use that to delineate between what you're going to save and what you're going to remove. So in this case, we want to outline our lady here, and you just kind of drag it around. And you can stop and go. You don't have to do this in one stroke. You can pick up the mouse, let go of the mouse button, and then just continue. You just follow around here. We'll get her scarf in. And so what you're telling ReMask in this moment is the stuff on the inside or outside, depending on how you click next, is on one side of this edge is going to be saved, and on the other side is going to be deleted. So you'll see here in a second. And then we're going to go ahead and make our brush a little bit smaller, and you can use the left and right bracket keys to affect that, and we're going to finish her earring off right here. Now our next step, we're still kind of in the block and tackle phase of our masking. And so after you've you've delineated what you want to keep and not keep, you have to tell ReMask, because right now it's still all green, you want to tell it what's the not keep. And the easiest way to do that is to come down here to the buckets over here on the left where it says fills, and you'll see a bucket, and there's a blue bucket, a red bucket, and a green bucket. I grab the red bucket now and I click. You just sort of left click and tap, and you'll see that this whole outside area has gone red. And I'm going to also click in this little square right here. That's the inside of her earring. I'm going to work a little bit more around that in a minute, as you'll see, but this gives us the bigger picture of what's being kept and not kept. And in this particular case, I don't have much more to do before I sort of generate or compute the mask. So once I've done that, because it's a fairly simple cut, I'm going to go ahead and hit compute mask. And right now it's working to decide where the mask is going to be. So now that it's finished, you can see here at the top it has image, try, map, mask, keep, and cut. It automatically puts you into the mask that it's created. And you'll see on this that there's some areas here that are kind of gray and hazy, and that's just telling you that it hasn't selected all the pixels in that area. So now we're going to do a little bit of cleanup on this, and you can clean it up in this mask, in this mask view, or you can go back and look at it from the keep view. This is another view to look at where you're seeing what you're keeping. This is a view of seeing what you're cutting. And then the try map shows you basically the original thing that you had, that you delineated, and then the image just shows you the full image as one. So I either like to work in the mask view or I like to work in the keep view. I'm going to show you how you improve your selection in both, just so you have a feel for it. First you go back to the basics. So you go back to your brushes now. Now that you've kind of done your block and tackle, now you're going to want to refine the mask. And to do that, you can either start with the subtractions or you can start with the additions. I kind of like to start with the addition first. So I go up over here and I grab the green. And you basically just tap around. And if you watch what I'm doing as I'm tapping, I know I'm tapping on the woman's forehead and on her scarf, and you'll see that it's starting to fill in some of these gray areas, right? Now, if you're unsure about what you're seeing, if you're not comfortable doing it in this format where you cannot see what's actually being kept, go to the keep. And that'll allow you to see, okay, well, I'm still working in the scarf and everything looks sort of good. You can draw lines if you want, and you'll start to see, and I'll do it here on her arm where you'll see it fill in. As I do this, you just saw her arm fill in the rest of it right here. Same thing, you might follow. And I like to follow all the edges. The edges is usually where if there's going to be anything that hasn't been fully picked up. This is where it's going to be, is on an edge, and it's where the colors are close to what's in the background. So I kind of go through this whole process and I do all the keeps. And then I'll come over and I'll say, okay, well now I've got a little bit too much kept here. You know, if you look at the back of her neck, something behind her is a very similar color. So I would come in and I would pick up the remove, which is the red brush, and I'll make it smaller and I'll start working back out. Now, the fact that it's gotten rid of some of her necklace is not a problem. I can fix that when I get into Photoshop. So same thing, I'm just tapping. This is a very simple left click as I start to refine the edging around her hair and everything. And you'll see how it starts to clean it up. You kind of work around it. Make sure you have some fairly good lines. On her forehead here, it seems like I'm maybe losing a little bit of pixels of her skin. So I'm going to go ahead and fill it in with the green and then back out just a little bit with the removal. And I'll tell you, it's really amazing how intuitive ReMask is. Here I am filling in sort of that nice side lighting across the bridge of her nose. Whoops, fix that. Touched the wrong thing. But it really is quite amazing how intuitive this is. The software itself really is able to identify edges. And this is true of edges with hair, loose hair and stuff like that. It's pretty stunning. Here's a great example where even though I had those big blue lines, the masking selection is actually very close to what I want to keep, right? There's not a lot of extra in the background. It knew exactly what I wanted to stay green, even though I had just a little red square in there. Come through here, do a couple of more things. All right, let's back this back out. To do that, you can either come up to the left-hand corner and use the plus and minus. You see where my mouse is over here on the left of the topaz screen, or you can use Command or Control minus sign on your keyboard to do it automatically. A couple more things right there. Okay, so now we've got a pretty clean mask, and we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And it will generate a mask to our layer. So now you can see over here right back into Photoshop, you can see that we have our background copy now has a mask on it. And the neat thing about generating it as a mask is if we find, once we bring our background in, that we have some more cleanup to do, we're able to take care of that. So now let's go pick our background. So for me, I'm going to go back out here to Lightroom, and I'm going to pick one of my textures. I found this texture when I was thinking about this tutorial, and I decided that I liked it, and I liked the result of it with her coloring and the coloring of her scarf. So I'm going to go ahead and select it, and in this case, didn't mean to make it bigger. Again, I'm going to right click this and drag down here and choose Adobe Photoshop. It'll open up automatically. Now, as you can see, it's opening up as its own document, and it's opening up into Camera Raw, so I can make some edits to this background straight away, which I like to do. So I'm going to make it a little bit more, bring out some clarity, give it a little bit more texture. I'm also going to drop down the exposure a little bit so it's not quite so bright around her, because I know where I'm going to kind of place her on this, and I'm going to bring up a little bit of the vibrance just to bring out the color a little bit more. So now that I've finished that, I'm going to go ahead and open it. And as I mentioned, I'm in my own, a new file, so it didn't automatically take it into her yet, but that's okay. Gives me a little opportunity to do a few more things. As you can see, this is on a landscape. She's on a portrait, so I like to turn it before I drag it in. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this, and I'm basically done with the creation of my texture. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag this down, and the reason I do that is because now it's its own layer, and I can just, it's easy to bring in by dragging and dropping within the image I'm trying to bring the texture into. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to left click and hold on the background of my texture layer. I'm just going to drag it, so now you can see a white bounding bar around the image of the woman. I'm going to let it go. It drops it in there. And I'm fine that it's dropped it in and it's kind of off a little bit. It doesn't matter, because I'm going to go ahead and transform that and move it. So you can either come to edit, and transform, free transform, or you can hit Command or Control T, and you'll see that it puts a bounding box around the texture. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and line it up, make a few adjustments here, and I want this to actually be, I want more purple around her than I do the gold, so I'm going to stretch it a little bit and continue to work it to where I want it. And you can do this, you know, in any way, shape, or form that suits you for the texture that you're using. And go ahead and hit Enter to save the transformation of the texture. And now you're going to come over and you're going to pick up your background layer. So basically left click and hold and drag it to the top of the layer. And now we've dropped her into the background, or the background's behind her now. And the reason you're seeing her is because the white part of the mask, which is here, white reveals, black hides. So you're revealing her, that you're hiding everything around her, and you're revealing her. And when you put this below, it goes into where the black was. So that's how that works. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and increase a little bit the size, and I want to see my selections and see how she's looking, and if there's any more touching up that I need to do. Now, as I mentioned, on her neck back here in her necklace, we lost a little bit in the mask. So the way to correct that is to highlight the mask itself. So just click on it, just a left click, and then pick your brush, make sure that your foreground color is white, which is right here. And if it's not white, you can either hit D and X will change these back and forth. And so you make sure that your foreground color is white, so you're painting with white on the mask, not on the image. And make our brush small and just touch up the white here and bring that out. Now it's okay that I've gone over a little bit, because I just need to go back, hit the X. You can see my foreground color is now black, and now I can just edge along again to fix up the edges. Everything else there looks pretty good. I'm going to come down here. Now she had some white on her shirt, and I don't really need that. I don't think it's adding value to the image. So all I need to do with black is actually just start adding a little bit of mask back until I just get rid of the white. I don't even really need to worry about that it's there. I can just do it very subtly, and it just kind of blends in. So we do the same thing. We look around, and I feel like her earring, although the ReMask did a really, really great job with this, I think that I can accentuate it by adding a little bit more white. So again, we want our foreground color white. We hit the X on the keyboard. You'll see that it's switched, and we'll just go give this a sweep with excuse me, with our brush. So now her earring is a little bit more pronounced. And if you want to clean up the edging a little bit, you certainly could make it bigger. I'm sort of used to doing this, so I kind of used to doing it at a distance. But now her earring is there, the color's there, it's a little bit more complete. Come down here, same thing. In this case, there's a little bit of a shadow on her arm. Just kind of edge it out very gently. Now, I'll be honest with you, I use a tablet and a pen, which makes this much easier to do than trying to control a mouse. But certainly, a mouse is a usable tool for this. I just tend to prefer the Wacom tablet with its pen. I just like the way it feels in my hand. So I think we've done a pretty good job of sort of going around and edging everything here to make sure that she is well selected and placed. So I'm going to go ahead and push this out a little bit. Now the next thing that, for me, I don't actually like this white. I think she had something on her lap. I don't really need that to be part of the image. And I also feel like she's a little bit small in the background. So the first thing I'm going to do is free transform her and make her bigger. The cool thing about it is because the mask is linked to the image of her, when I change the size of her, the mask will change. I don't have to work with my mask. So I'm going to go ahead and do Control T again, or Command T, or you can choose free transform. You'll get your bounding box around the image, and you can just stretch her up, and you can drag her down, and you can place her within the image the way that you see fit. Okay, so if you're curious about how I've refit this back to the screen so you can see the whole image again, it's actually Command or Control 0, and that pushes it back so that everything fits. So when you have an image that you've got in free transform, and part of the image is bigger or smaller, and you want to see how all the edges work, or you want to find an edge so that you can actually manipulate it, Command and Control 0, that's a great way to get it back to a small size so that you can actually find those edges and continue to manipulate it. So now that we're done with that, there's actually one more thing I want to do to my mask, and I like to do this sometimes. It doesn't always have to happen, but if you are interested in feathering the mask because of the way the image sits, the way the edge looks, you certainly can do that, and you do that by choosing the mask, and you'll see that it comes up and it has a density. So for instance, maybe I want some of those people in the background to pop through. That's density. Density is how dark that is. Is it full black, or is it 50% gray? And you can see that that might be an image that looks good too, whether you can tell that she's not really cut out or sitting in a studio, but there is something going on, but it's a little bit less distracting. If you don't want to see anybody back there, you can put it up to 100% density. In addition to that, you can feather the edge so that it's a bit more graceful flow, and you just choose feather. You can feather a whole bunch, you can feather a little bit, but all of this can happen after you've done your mask. But that's the extent of it. It's so easy to use ReMask to cut out pieces of an image and then make composite images, make just an image on a background. I could have moved her into a cafe scene. There's all these choices, and depending on the topic and subject that you're shooting and moving, the world's the limit on this. You can move monuments to a different background. Say you have a really beautiful sky, but you have a picture of the Washington Monument and the sky was all blown out or white or dark or whatever, just didn't have any character, but you have a great picture of a cloud set. You can easily cut something like that out with all of the trees and all of the colonnades if it's the Lincoln Memorial, and drop that onto any sky that you need. So ReMask is a great tool to get quick masking done, and it's so intuitive that it makes it super easy, and it's in many respects much easier than the masking capabilities of the lasso or the magic wand that come in Photoshop. So just depending on your need, I find it a go-to solution on a regular basis. Hope you've enjoyed this, hope you've learned something, and stay tuned to Roadrunner YouTube channel for more tutorials in the future. Take care, and thanks for watching.